Picture this. You're walking through your garden on a crisp autumn morning, and instead of seeing bare, lifeless soil between your vegetable beds, you're greeted by a lush carpet of vibrant green plants swaying gently in the breeze. This isn't just a pretty sight, it's your cover crops working their magic, quietly transforming your soil into a living, breathing ecosystem that will reward you with incredible harvests for years to come. If you've been following along with the Soilsage Chronicles community, you know I'm passionate about working with nature rather than against it. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most powerful tools in our regenerative gardening toolkit: cover crops. Whether you're just starting your permaculture journey or you're a seasoned grower looking to enhance your soil building strategies, this comprehensive guide will show you exactly how to harness the incredible power of these unsung heroes. Let me share something that completely changed my perspective on gardening. 3 years ago, I was struggling with compacted clay soil that seemed determined to reject everything I planted. Then I discovered cover crops, and within just one growing season, I watched my soil transform from hard-packed earth into rich, crumbly paradise that earthworms couldn't resist. Cover crops are essentially plants grown specifically to benefit the soil rather than for harvest. Think of them as your soil's personal trainers. They're constantly working to improve structure, fertility, and biological activity, even when you're not paying attention. In permaculture and regenerative agriculture, these plants serve as the foundation for building resilient, self-sustaining systems that mimic natural ecosystems. The beauty of cover crops lies in their diversity of functions. Some fix nitrogen from the atmosphere, essentially creating free fertilizer for your future plants. Others break up compacted soil with their powerful root systems, creating natural drainage channels. Many suppress weeds by outcompeting them for space and light, while others attract beneficial insects that help control pests naturally. Here's where things get really exciting. When you plant cover crops, you're not just covering bare ground. You're orchestrating an underground symphony of biological activity that most gardeners never see but absolutely should understand. Every cover crop plant is constantly communicating with soil microorganisms through its roots. They release compounds called exudates that feed beneficial bacteria and fungi, creating what soil scientists call the rhizosphere, a vibrant zone of life around each root. These microorganisms in turn help plants access nutrients that would otherwise remain locked up in the soil. Nitrogen-fixing cover crops like clover and vetch have formed partnerships with special bacteria called rhizobia that live in nodules on their roots. These bacteria literally pull nitrogen from the air and convert it into forms that plants can use. When these cover crops decompose, they release this nitrogen slowly and naturally, providing long-term fertility without the need for synthetic fertilizers. Meanwhile, plants with deep taproots like daikon radishes and chicory act as biological plows, penetrating compacted layers and bringing up nutrients from deep in the soil profile. When these roots decompose, they leave behind channels that improve water infiltration and root penetration for your future crops. The key to success with cover crops is matching the right plants to your specific goals and growing conditions. I've learned this through plenty of trial and error, and I want to save you from some of the mistakes I made early on. For nitrogen fixation, legumes are your go-to choice. Crimson clover works beautifully in cooler climates and provides stunning red blooms that beneficial insects adore. If you're in a warmer region, cowpeas or sun hemp might be better options. I've had incredible success with Austrian winter peas in my Zone 6 garden. They survive harsh winters and provide substantial nitrogen for spring plantings. When dealing with compacted soil, focus on plants with strong root systems. Tillage radish, also called oilseed radish, sends roots down 3 feet or more, creating natural drainage channels. Ryegrass develops extensive fibrous root systems that improve soil structure near the surface. I often combine these two for maximum impact. For weed suppression, look for fast-growing, dense cover crops that quickly shade out competing plants. Buckwheat is fantastic for this. It grows incredibly fast, blooms profusely to attract pollinators, and can be easily incorporated into the soil before it sets seed. Timing is everything when it comes to cover crops, and getting this right can mean the difference between success and frustration. I found that most gardeners struggle with this aspect initially, so let me walk you through the strategies that have worked best for me. Fall planting is often ideal because it takes advantage of natural rainfall and cooler temperatures. I typically plant my winter cover crops about 6 to 8 weeks before the first hard frost. This gives them enough time to establish strong root systems that can survive winter and resume growth in spring. Summer cover crops serve a different purpose. They protect soil during the hottest part of the year and can provide habitat for beneficial insects when your main crops might be stressed. Buckwheat is perfect for this, as it thrives in heat and can be grown in short windows between spring and fall crops. Green manure crops are planted specifically to be incorporated into the soil while still green and actively growing. The timing here is crucial. You want to incorporate them when they have maximum biomass, but before they set seed. For most plants, this is right at the flowering stage when nutrient content is highest. What I love most about cover crops is how perfectly they align with permaculture principles. They're a prime example of stacking functions, one element serving multiple purposes within your system. In my food forest areas, I use nitrogen-fixing ground covers like white clover and wild strawberry to provide continuous soil improvement while also yielding food and supporting pollinators. These living mulches eliminate the need for constant reapplication of organic matter while creating beneficial habitat throughout the growing season. Cover crops also excel at energy cycling within your system. Instead of importing fertilizers and soil amendments from outside sources, you're generating fertility right where you need it. The carbon captured by your cover crops comes from atmospheric CO2, and the nitrogen fixed by legumes comes from the air around us. You're literally pulling nutrients out of thin air and banking them in your soil. The diversity principle is another area where cover crops shine. Rather than planting monocultures, I create cover crop cocktails that combine multiple species with complementary functions. A typical mix might include a nitrogen fixer like clover, a deep-rooted nutrient accumulator like chicory, and a fast-growing biomass producer like oats. Managing cover crops effectively requires understanding when and how to terminate them for maximum benefit. This is where many gardeners get confused, but the principles are actually quite straightforward once you understand the underlying biology. Mechanical termination works well for tender plants like buckwheat or young legumes. I use a sharp hoe or scythe to cut plants at soil level, leaving roots intact to decompose naturally. This method preserves soil structure while providing immediate surface mulch. For tougher plants, or when you need more complete termination, incorporation might be necessary. I prefer using a broad fork to gently work cover crop residue into the top few inches of soil without destroying soil structure like rototilling would. This method speeds decomposition while maintaining the biological networks that cover crops have helped establish. The timing of termination is critical for maximizing benefits. For nitrogen-fixing legumes, I terminate them right at peak bloom when nitrogen content is highest. For carbon-accumulating grasses, I wait until they've produced maximum biomass, but before they become too woody to decompose easily. Even with the best planning, cover crops can present challenges that test your patience and problem-solving skills. Let me share some solutions to issues I've encountered over the years. Poor germination often results from planting too deep or inadequate soil contact. Most cover crop seeds are small and need good seed-to-soil contact to germinate successfully. I've found that a light raking after broadcasting seed, followed by gentle watering, dramatically improves establishment rates. Sometimes, slow growth might actually mean your soil has nutrient deficiencies or just isn't in great shape. Ironically, the very soil problems you're trying to fix with cover crops can end up limiting their growth at first. In these cases, a light application of compost or organic fertilizer can really help get your plants established so they can start improving things for future plantings. But occasionally, cover crops become a little too successful and form these dense mats that are kind of tough to manage. When this happens, I've learned to look at it as a good problem to have. These dense covers can be managed by cutting them a few times before you finally terminate them, which actually boosts their soil building benefits by stimulating root growth. The real magic of cover crops, honestly, starts to show when you think beyond just one season and begin planning for multi-year soil improvement strategies. This long-term approach has completely transformed not only my soil, but also my entire relationship with gardening. I've developed what I like to call a soil renovation rotation, and it systematically addresses different soil needs over a 3-year cycle. In year 1, I focus on nitrogen fixation and adding organic matter with legume-rich mixes. Year 2 is all about improving soil structure using deep-rooted plants and grasses. Then in year 3 I combine maintenance cover crops with food production in a thoughtfully planned polyculture system. Each year really builds on the previous year's improvements, creating compounding benefits that become more pronounced over time. Soil that once required heavy inputs of compost and fertilizer gradually becomes self-sustaining, needing only occasional additions to maintain peak fertility. The biological diversity created by this approach provides resilience against weather extremes and pest pressures. Soils with healthy cover crop rotations maintain better moisture during droughts and drain more effectively during wet periods. The diverse plant communities support beneficial insect populations that naturally control pest outbreaks. As we wrap up this deep dive into the world of cover crops, I hope you're feeling as excited as I am about the potential these incredible plants hold for transforming your garden. The journey from understanding the science to implementing practical strategies might seem overwhelming at first, but remember that every expert gardener started exactly where you are now. The most important step is simply to start. Choose one area of your garden, select a cover crop that matches your primary goal, and plant it. Watch, learn, and adjust your approach based on what you observe. Your soil will begin improving immediately, and your growing confidence will compound just like the benefits in your garden beds. Don't forget to subscribe to Soilsage Chronicles for more in-depth gardening wisdom, and share this article with fellow gardeners who are ready to unlock the soil-building power of cover crops. Together, we're creating a community of growers who understand that healthy soil is the foundation of everything we do in the garden.